An arrogant tourist was throwing paper at a royal guard, expecting a show. But one step forward from the soldier shocked everyone, and the cocky troublemaker lost his confidence. Early morning in London, and the city centre is already coming to life with the hum of the first tourist buses and the flashes of cameras. Above Buckingham Palace, the royal flag proudly flutters, signaling the monarch's presence. In front of the majestic palace facade, tourists gather, buzzing with excitement, armed with cameras and souvenir bags. They buzz like a swarm of bees, each vying for the perfect photo angle. At the center of the commotion stands the royal guard, as still as a statue carved from stone. His scarlet uniform is immaculate, and his towering bearskin hat accentuates his commanding posture. The guard gazes into the distance, unfazed by the noisy crowd. His stance embodies discipline and honor. To him, this post is not merely a job, but a solemn duty to his country. He doesn't move, doesn't react, maintaining calm under the barrage of camera flashes and remarks. But as is often the case, there's always someone in the crowd who believes the world revolves around them. Today, that someone is Brian, a 30-year-old American in a bright yellow t-shirt emblazoned with "I'm the King of Fun," a cap pulled low over his eyes, and a backpack dangling from one shoulder. In one hand, he holds a plastic cup with the remnants of beer, clearly unfinished from his visit to a nearby pub. Slightly tipsy, Brian exudes confidence, acting as if the rules apply to everyone but him. He laughs so loudly that his voice drowns out the crowd's chatter. People turn to look, and basking in their attention, he takes a few steps toward the guard. "Hey, Red Boy, you guarding the Queen? How about you hold my spot while I grab a picture?" he shouts, grinning boldly. The guard doesn't react. Of course he doesn't. But sometimes, silence can be louder than words. And this silence now hangs heavily between Brian and the stoic soldier. The crowd starts to laugh, egging the tourist on. Encouraged by the attention, Brian decides this is his moment to shine. He steps next to the guard, striking absurd poses. One arm mimics holding a rifle, while the other pretends to wield an invisible sword. He barks mock commands, imitating soldiers from Hollywood films. But instead of looking funny, he comes off as ridiculous. "Hey, are you even alive? Or are you just a mannequin?" he continues, leaning toward the guard's face. Brian, however, is not one to reflect on such matters. He pushes further. His eyes scan the guard's uniform, and another brilliant idea pops into his head. He takes the plastic lid from his beer cup and throws it at the soldier's feet. "Seriously? Did you stick a wooden pole up your back to stand so stiff?" he jeers, staring at the guard's face as if searching for any hint of emotion. The guard remains unmoving, not a single twitch. But within this absolute stillness lies an unmistakable tension, like a taut string ready to snap. "Do you even blink? Or will they dock your pay if you do?" Brian taunts, stepping even closer. His laughter grows louder, but it begins to sound forced. The crowd splits into two camps, some still laughing, others watching with increasing disapproval. "This is too much," mutters an elderly woman nearby. "He's serving his country, not here for entertainment." But Brian, drunk on his own popularity, doesn't hear her. He feels like the star of the moment, a man about to break the unbreakable soldier. To him, it's his right to have fun. He's a tourist, after all. He pays for hotels, souvenirs, food. Surely he deserves a show. All he wants is one reaction, a smile, a glance, a word. But the guard remains silent, and the silence grows deafening.
The crowd around Buckingham Palace continues to swell, But now the center of attention has shifted from the grand building to the audacious tourist, Brian. Standing before the motionless royal guard, Brian acts as if he owns the moment. Why not? He's a tourist. He bought tickets, purchased souvenirs, and contributed to the local economy. By his logic, this entitles him to demand a show, and the guy in red owes him some entertainment. Hey, are you even alive? Or are these just mannequins standing here? Brian shouts, smirking as he glances back at the crowd, who watch his antics with a mix of curiosity and amusement. But the guard's lack of response starts to irritate Brian. His jokes don't seem to land, and the soldier remains calm, as if oblivious to the chaos around him. This frustrates Brian. He's not used to being ignored. Normally, a few loud words or silly gestures are enough to make him the center of attention, but here, nothing. Determined to escalate, he rummages through his jeans pockets and pulls out a handful of crumpled receipts from his previous day's pub crawls and shopping sprees. In his mind, this is pure genius. Well, if words don't work, maybe this will, he yells, crumpling one of the receipts and tossing it toward the guard. The receipt lands on the ground, sliding across the pristine cobblestones, but the guard remains unmoved, not even a blink. Come on, show us you're alive, or do you get a bonus for staying still? Brian bellows, laughing so loudly that some tourists instinctively step back from him. He continues throwing paper, one piece landing squarely on the guard's spotless uniform collar. The crowd erupts into laughter, though some now look uncomfortable. This is going too far, says an older man with a cane nearby. His gray hair and stern expression lend weight to his words. He's a symbol of our nation, not a street performer. But Brian either doesn't hear or pretends not to. He's intoxicated by his audacity, reveling in the perceived power of his actions. He's not just tossing paper, he's challenging authority, mocking tradition. In his mind, it's daring. Well, buddy, are you going to say something, or are you just here to look pretty? Brian sneers, closing the gap between himself and the guard. Then he crosses the white line, a strict boundary that tourists are forbidden to pass. This isn't just disrespectful, it's a violation of rules. But does Brian care? Not at all. To him, it's all part of the fun. Now, standing directly in front of the guard, Brian leans in, staring into his face as if searching for the faintest flicker of emotion. The crowd grows restless. Some pull out their phones to record, while others murmur disapprovingly. "Hey, leave him alone. Show some respect for his service," shouts a woman with an accent, likely another European tourist. But for Brian, any reaction fuels his ego. Whether it's encouragement or criticism, it feeds his need for attention. He laughs loudly and theatrically leans on the guard's rifle. "So, is this thing real, or just for show?" he sneers, tapping the rifle with his finger. But Brian isn't done. He picks up another scrap of paper, carefully crumples it, and with exaggerated flair throws it directly at the guard's face. The paper brushes against the soldier's neck and falls to the ground. The tension in the air becomes palpable, and then something happens that no one expected. The guard, who had been as motionless as a statue, takes a precise step forward. The movement, sudden and commanding, silences the crowd instantly. Even the wind seems to pause. Brian, thrown off balance, freezes in place. The rifle. It moves into view from the guard's shoulder, and that single motion communicates far more than protocol. His face remains cold, focused, and authoritative. Every action is honed by years of service. The guard adjusts his weapon, positioning the bayonet downward. There's no aggression or threat in the gesture, but the message is crystal clear. A line has been crossed, and order will now be restored. The guard lowers the bayonet directly onto the white line separating the security zone from the crowd. Until now, that line had been merely symbolic. But at this moment it becomes a boundary no one dares to challenge. "Sir, step back. Immediately." The guard's voice is firm, even, and strikingly calm. He doesn't raise his tone, yet each word cuts through the air with such authority that even those standing further back instinctively take a step away. Silence. A profound, almost deafening silence follows, contrasting sharply with the jeers and laughter from moments before. It feels as if even the walls of Buckingham Palace are now listening. Brian, who had been basking in his own cocky confidence just seconds earlier, suddenly falters. His smug grin and arrogant demeanor dissolve, vanishing like foam in an unfinished beer cup. Now he looks bewildered, almost frightened. "Hey man, I was just joking," he stammers, stepping back. His movements are clumsy, like someone who's just realized they've gone too far, but the crowd has made its judgment. A murmur ripples through the onlookers, growing louder, turning into a wave of approval. "Serves you right," someone calls out from the middle of the crowd. "Show some respect for their traditions," another voice chimes in. Applause begins hesitantly but quickly spreads, with more and more people joining in. Some record the moment on their phones, while others simply nod toward the guard in quiet admiration. Brian glances around, realizing that the support he'd expected has evaporated. Now, all he sees are faces filled with disapproval. He flushes red, his shoulders slumping in embarrassment. "All right, I get it. Fine," he mutters, trying to play it cool. He takes a few more unsteady steps back before disappearing into the crowd, which parts for him like the Red Sea. But instead of a path to glory, it's a walk of shame. Meanwhile, the guard takes a step back, resuming his original position. His movements are as precise and confident as ever. He adjusts his hat, straightens his posture, and freezes once more, a living statue, as if nothing had happened. But the crowd knows. Something significant did happen. They witness discipline, honor, and dignity triumph over arrogance and ignorance.